the defense of the higher consciousness must go one step further. We had already said, your soul walks an eternal path through a variety of material and non-material worlds, existences, and planes of being. Your current earthly personality, Mr. Smith or Mrs. Watson, is perishable. It will cease to exist already in a few years from now. It is therefore not your true identity. All of us have to get rid of our own ego, the illusory apparent self, to recognize our true self in a transcendental divine life. You must learn to see these different existences not as separate lives, but as the one single uninterrupted life of your eternal individuality, which only takes place in different worlds and using different, each of them transient tools, bodies. One may regard the chain of incarnations as a sequence of separate lives, but it is better to look upon the entire chain of incarnations as one life. Truly, there is only one life. The exercise just discussed to shift your consciousness to your higher self requires a further step. Extract your consciousness from the transient earthly personality. Do not identify yourself any longer with Mr. Smith and Mrs. Watson. Practice to view your eternal spiritual individuality as your real, your true self. You are not Mr. Smith or Mrs. Watson. You are a quite different, a physically not visible and not tangible being. Let us give this spiritual creature, to identify it, a name of its own. For example, anima. You will, of course, choose a better name for yourself. Then we can say, you are anima. Anima uses Mr. Smith and Mrs. Watson for a short period of time in order to be able to appear on Earth. However, anima discards these personalities once their natural end is reached. Anima then chooses a new vehicle to continue to operate on the next level it reaches, the world beyond. According to Helena Blavatsky, immortality is that gift which allows the same great personality to step at will from one worn-out body into another. As long as your consciousness remains in a transitory personality, Mr. Smith, you are mortal, as this personality comes to an end. You then form in a later earthly life a new, once again mortal personality of its own, Mrs. Watson, unconnected with the previous one. Thus, you split up your eternal life into many separate, each of them perishable existences. Only when you achieve to constantly preserve the new, higher consciousness, your true identity as anima, in all material and spiritual worlds into which you are exiled on your eternal way, only then you are really immortal. The achievement of true immortality is the maintaining of consciousness on all four planes of existence. You need to learn to be anima always and everywhere. In heaven, where she acts with a subtle body. On earth, where she is incarnated in a physical body. Back in heaven, down on earth again, and so on. One and the same, uninterrupted identity on all material and non-material levels. This is immortality. What do you have to do in order to preserve the higher consciousness, your new identity as anima, throughout all transitions? First of all, you must, in addition to the formation of the consciousness of your immortality, in a further step, create your higher identity yourself. Your physical body was laid for you into the cradle. Your true, spiritual, timeless individuality you need to form yourself. On this divine plan, each one is the builder of his soul and the architect of his own immortality. Animals are almost featureless in the higher world because they have not yet developed a consciousness of their spiritual existence and are therefore unable to mold their spiritual being. Man, however, has gained this consciousness and must now go ahead to shape his higher individuality according to a picture which needs to be invented by himself. You have to form an ideal pattern and then mold the soul substance by or into that ideal. We had already said, in the spiritual world, the home of the soul, you can be anything you want to be, because there you form yourself by means of your own thoughts and feelings. So, make up your mind. How should anima look like? Who or what do you want her to be? According to which image do you wish to model your eternal individuality? One possible choice of a higher existence is the one of a spiritual disciple of a great teacher. This is an identity which you can fill out on all planes of existence and in all worlds. So, if you want to follow this path, you need to find out how such disciples looked like at all times, and then to form yourself according to this ideal. One of the duties devolving upon the accepted personal High Chela of the Great White Lodge is the formation of such an ideal in his mentality, generally built according to the concept of his master, and using some moments of his hours of meditation to planting the seed, the first causes of that which will eventually be his permanent self. This is a purely mental process, which initially takes place in your consciousness alone, and only later needs to be tested, practiced, affirmed, and proved in the material reality. We shall go into the details of this exercise in later broadcastings. To give you at least an idea on how to proceed practically, we can say today, you, your higher spiritual being, actually are a disciple if you go to visit your teacher regularly. If possible, every day in the morning, at noon, and at night. Of course, in spirit. If you report to him for service and training. If you receive from him instructions, tasks, and assignments, and execute them in your everyday material life. You have to raise the eternal individuality chosen by yourself, just like a little child. For the time being, your soul, which you have only just discovered, is still a baby, which is driven by the circumstances and his physical tool, the body, back and forth, like an infant on a big horse. Your spiritual being has to become so great and so strong that it is able to control the acts of the four mortal bodies, as the charioteer controls the horses of the quadriga. Ultimately, it is the goal of the spiritual disciple to let the soul grow, so that it develops from a small to a great soul, a Mahatma. This is a process that takes place independently from the material conditions within your consciousness. The struggle for survival, education, and growth of the soul, of your eternal individuality, goes on solely within yourself, in the spirit. Mastery is reached by the realization of victory over self. Conquering self, the victor will rise. Only when you have won this spiritual battle, you can bring the resulting achievement, a mature soul, to bear in the outside world. We shall discuss in more detail in later broadcastings how to promote the growth of your soul. Today, one exercise should suffice. Take some resolution. For example, to change your eating habits or to realize a dream, an idea. Put this spiritual plan into tangible reality. Inevitably, you will meet opposition, either within yourself or in the world. By struggling with these resisting forces, your spiritual nature will grow, will become bigger and stronger. Let us listen to one of the most important statements of Helena Röhrig. The joy of battle is a fundamental note of being. Through struggle comes the great power of spirit and the great gift of immortality. At the end of this broadcasting, let us sum up as follows. The first pillar of the practice of Agni Yoga requires not to lose for a moment the consciousness of your new dignity as an immortal man, and to meet every situation of your material life with a corresponding attitude. Only then are you really an immortal. Next, if you want to make progress on the spiritual path, you need to form, to educate, and to raise your true self, your eternal individuality.